Hello and welcome back to Frogboy X1 Gaming. I'm Andrew, and today I want to talk about the comment section over the AMD videos that I've been making for this new 7900 XT and my comparison to the 3080. So I'm not going to compare 40 cards or any other thing to this because I don't have one. I never did have one. I can only go from my experience with the 3080. And it seems like there's a lot of people in the comment section that are more concerned with protecting the image of Nvidia over AMD when I'm simply just trying to help people decide like, hey man, is AMD really worth switching to? Because all we ever hear about AMD is bad things. I'm not saying that Nvidia is bad in any way, shape, or form. Like, I'm not here to try um, to downplay, Nvidia. Like, I'm not. Do I think their products are worth the money they ask? No, I don't. I think they should be priced more closely to what AMD cards are because, frankly, with that 3080, all right, here's like one of the things with that 3080, I had to rely on DLSS for everything. For everything. There was a newer game. Like, there was no way to play those without using DLSS. Like, you had to. With my 7900 XT, I get to play those same games that I was playing on the 3080, and I don't even have to use FSR. I don't have to use anything. I can just run them natively, and it's okay. I still get better performance than I was getting with the 3080 on most of that stuff, and that's just a fact. So let me let me tell you guys right now where the 3080 went wrong, because I get a whole bunch of comments about, people telling me what I should have had and shouldn't have had on my 3080 with my system, and they've got different, and they're not even using the same card that I had. So it's kind of pointless or moot to think that, like, well, yeah, it's in the same family, it's going to have this or that. So it all started with Spider-Man. It all started with Spider-Man. Now, I mean, now that somebody in the comment section reminded me, and now that I look back on it, like, everything up to Spider-Man was going fine. But I was on a 3060 Ti. I didn't really, there was nothing really out there that was really trying to push the system before that. It was once the PlayStation games started coming out that I started seeing a problem. And then with the newer games, anything newer that was coming out, the ones that were like saying they need 32 gigs of RAM, of like regular RAM, they need, a certain card or whatever. Like, when they started, like, I think, actually, was it the first one? I think maybe Plague Tale Requiem. No, Plague Tale Requiem ran fine at 1440p, but it would still have dips and everything. But on the 3060 Ti, I think when we got I think is what happened is when we got the system requirements for um Plague Tale Requiem. That's when I was like, no, we gotta upgrade. We gotta upgrade. So that was the first game that was like, no, we need to upgrade, man. Like, I want to be able to play this game and run it, pretty good. I had Spider-Man already. I tried playing Plague Tale Requiem on the 3080. I mean, they were playable. I just had to turn the frame rate counter off so that I could actually enjoy the game, because I was just watching the frame rate just go up and down. Now, you can blame the memory all you want, but we all know that if we all know, and I just learned this personally, if your motherboard is already trained to a certain RAM, if you put two more sticks in, it's just going to basically copy those settings, and they're going to run in tandem with those settings. So I don't really think the memory thing was a problem, because I never ran into those type of issues when I turned on XMP on the pre-built. I got my 3200 megahertz speed. Like, I got that. Before that, though, with the memory, I would have gotten 3733 with just the Kingston memory. That memory is actually really highly tuned and really good stuff. So when I had the other memory in there, I wasn't really having any problems. Everything was running pretty decently for the most part. But when it came to the newer games, any older game I didn't have a problem with. Any of my racing games, I could run those at 4K 120. It didn't have a problem with those. All of that, everything felt smooth. Everything older felt smooth. It was just the newer games that were made for the newer systems that were starting to really get annoying. So SpiderMan, I was having those really weird freaking frames up and down and up and down, and you can't tell me that because I still get them on this PC. Like I still get them. I can be at 80 and then go down, but the drastic, it's not as drastic in the frames going up and down with the new PC. The next game I got was what, Gotham Knights. Gotham Knights was all over the place. DLSS didn't even work at first. I mean, that game was just poorly optimized. There was a lot of games that were poorly optimized when they came out too, and that's what we always tend to do, is blame the developers and blame the games. We never want to sit here and look at our hardware as some term of, as some sort of as some as a cause of the problem in any way. It's always, no, we paid this much for this card, it's perfect, the games are trash. And I see that, and because when I'm having a good experience on a game and it's running great because it's an older game, that's fine. But I tend to put a lot more of the blame on the 3080 10 gig than I do any of that other stuff. And it's simply just because everything else before ran fine and it ran great and I was having a good time. And then we get to the new games and all of a sudden it's not that good. I have to use DLSS, I have to use this, I have to use that. I mean, you're trying to tell me that I could run Death Stranding on the 3080 well over 120 frames a second at 4K, but then I couldn't run freaking Gotham Knights at 4K at over 120 frames a second. Like, really. That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like there's like some kind of baked in obsolescence when it comes to Nvidia graphics cards, and I do. Like, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and make a whole bunch of content just bashing Nvidia, because no, dude, like, obviously Nvidia does some good things. If you buy their top end, high end cards, like, it's probably fine. And their 30 series cards, the I don't know, man. Like, it just started getting to a point where I'm starting to have to make sacrifices a lot more to run on that 3080 card than I think was warranted. And that's why, now that I got the AMD card with the 20 gigs and, right around the same price I paid for the 3080, when I compare the 3080 to the 7900 XT, it is purely because this is kind of my thinking. Last gen, I bought the 3080, which was a step down from the 3090, and that's kind of the way I'm looking at the 7900 XTX and the 7900. Is I'm putting that 7900 XT as like the 3080 or the 4080 equivalent, or the 3080 equivalent from what I've got from gen on gen, and then looking at the uptick from that. Because if you were to look at um the the overall the overall performance of like the 4080 card, it's definitely punching a little, it's definitely punching above what I got right now, and it's also punching well above the 3080 10 gig. So I mean, we would be right in this same position either way I would have went. I still would have been seeing a drastic improvement over the 3080 10 gig. So in terms of like, let's get back to these games, because I'm so, like, I'm getting a little tired of people telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about because of because like because I'm trying to be positive, or because I'm being positive about AMD, and I'm explaining my experience with the 3080. It's just all these people always looking for a reason to tell me that I'm wrong. And like, dude, if you guys want to stay on the hamster wheel and spend tons of money on features that, like, you have to use versus should be like, you shouldn't have to use with that much money, I'm thinking that's fine. Stay on the hamster wheel, man. I'm not trying to convince you. This is for people that are considering switching from Nvidia to AMD because they're sick and tired of getting throttled by VRAM or some other thing. That's what these videos are for, man. This is my journey of switching from Nvidia to AMD to see what it is, to see what it's like. I'm not becoming an AMD fanboy, and I'm not going out of my way to trash Nvidia. I'm really not trying to do that. And if you've watched all of the content, I'm really not trying to do that. I'm just explaining my experience with the 3080 and how much different the change is, because, like, your only other options this generation are to go with a 4090 or a 4080. Do you really want to spend that much money, or can you get something a little bit cheaper and be able to live with that experience for the next couple of years? That's all this is. Can you live with the AMD experience? Can you be able to use and utilize this card for the next few years and save some money? Because if you think about it, if you buy the 7900 XTX right now today, you're going to pay exactly half the price of a 4090. And then in the next 2 years, when the 89, what is it? Yeah, the 8900 XTX comes out, you'll probably pay the other half of the 4090 and get 4090 Ti performance out of it. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't even matter. Like, you're still, like, you would still be paying the same amount of money if you upgraded both cards, both generations. So that's the thing, man. You can buy the 4090 now and get your 4090 power right now and then play it. Or you can get the XTX, the 7900 XTX, and you can play it at 4080 ish. You could play at 4080 performance with 24 gigs of VRAM, so you don't have to worry about running out of VRAM. And then next generation, you can buy the new card and get that 4090 power and still only pay the price of a 4090. That's what I'm saying. Like, everybody wants to go out and jump out there and buy these top end graphics cards for Nvidia, and just to know that, like, in 2 years it's going to be obsolete and the new card's going to be way better, so you're going to end up having FOMO to buy that anyways. So I don't know. I don't know, man. I'm just trying to help in the PC community, because anybody else, any other channel, all you ever hear is, Nvidia's better, Nvidia's better. And like, it was so hard just to find. That's why it's so hard to switch to AMD, because it's so hard to find positive content for it. You get all these benchmarks. That's it. That's all you get is benchmarks. You don't really get to listen to anybody talk about the user experience. You just get to you just get to watch benchmarks, and then people pontificating on how, well, yeah, the DLSS and the frame generation, all this stuff just puts Nvidia in a higher quality card class. That's all you hear, and it's so much, and it's so overwhelming that you're like, oh my gosh, man, should I even take a chance with AMD? Should I just buy the best? And now that I'm buying the best, I only have like $700, so I guess I'll get the VRAM limited option that's going to be obsolete in 2 years. Like, I can't just ever have like a solid experience on the Nvidia card unless I buy the top of the line. That's like, other people have that same anxiety. Just because you have enough to go out there or you've accepted the fact that, like, look, I'm on the hamster wheel and I'm buying the best. That's not everybody can afford to do that. This channel is here for a lot of different people, man. Like, I get your guys' experience, and I get that you want to 100% not necessarily protect Nvidia, but you guys, like, I'm not trying to tell you your experience is different than mine, but man, if you guys would have bought the 3080 10 gig, I'm pretty sure you'd be a little bit upset like I am with Nvidia, and instead of being more out to 12 gigs, like your 12 gig card, the 3080 12 gig was probably just enough to have an okay experience on TLOU remake. It was probably good enough. Like that was like the bare minimum you needed, was like 12 gigs of RAM. I had 10. So when I was playing that game and it was just trash, I was getting mad. I was getting mad. I was like, really, dude, I can't even play this game. And I was trying to play it at 1440p. My expectations for the 3080 10 gig, the 4K card that it was marketed as, was 1440p at over 60 frames a second, and being able to use like ray tracing and max settings. Like, that was my expectation, but then it started falling short of that. So you can sit here and you can tell me that I'm wrong all day long, and you can try to, be rude about it all you want. Like, I don't care, but I was getting pissed off, man. I don't like wasting money. I don't like wasting money all the time, and having to upgrade out of necessity. Like, I had to upgrade out of necessity just so I could continue to enjoy next generation of games. That It's simple. I mean, you guys don't need to sit here and try to tell me or find out and diagnose the reason why my 3080 10 gig wasn't having. There's so many people out there that did your little special benchmarks on the TLOU that would show you that, yeah, the 3080 just wasn't going to cut it with 10 gigs. Like, I was having terrible stuttering problems with Wild Hearts. And it was bad. Like it was terrible stuttering. Like buying these games and then just having them like stutter real bad and not be able to play. Well, I don't have those problems on the 7900 XT with any of those games now. All of those games are running just fine now. They run just fine. So so I don't get what you guys are trying to prove, man. Like I don't understand what you guys are trying to prove. Like my experience was with the 3080. I can't compare it to a 40 card, and I'm not going to go spend that much money for 12 gigs of VRAM for 4070 Ti to compare it to my 70. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not giving Nvidia any money this generation. I'm not doing it. They've already showed me that, like, hey man, I'm not going to do it. I'm not doing it this generation. If I had to, if for some weird reason that my 7900 XT can't last me until the next generation of cards and I have to go back to Nvidia, it is what it is. Like I'll bite the bullet and go back, but I'll go back at a 4090. That's the way it would have to be. Like I'm not gonna buy a 4080 or any of that stuff. I would have to go back at a 4090, and that's fine because I was already at a point where I was planning on building a 4090 next year. So I'm glad that I got to pretty much build half of the. I mean, I'm more than halfway there now. If you think about it, all I need now is a 4090 in the CPU. I'm not saying that I'm never going back to Nvidia, but I'm not going to sit here and trash AMD just because everybody else is like, oh man, Nvidia is better. Like I get that Nvidia does a dang good job, and I get that there's settings and stuff in there that I never found because frankly they're, I mean, it's not like they're hidden, but they're technically hidden, man. They don't have like Nvidia needs to do something. You pull up GeForce Now and you play around with that, and it's got some settings in there, but nothing like I've been able to find in the AMD software. So like I don't know what you guys are trying to prove. Like I feel like and and I'm not being mean. I'm just trying to get my point across that, like, look man, like I get that you guys know more than me when it comes to PC. You've been doing it a lot longer. I get that. Like I 100% get that. But the only thing you guys are doing with your comments is furthering the is just furthering the marketing for the Nvidia cards. Like you're just making it harder on yourselves by not calling Nvidia out and taking a stand and being like, look man, you're right, Frog. AMD has one hell of a compelling card right now that will give you more than a good enough experience to overcome that Nvidia whatever FOMO stuff long enough to give yourself a chance to reboot and start making a well-informed decision going and having a gaming experience. Because I'll tell you right now that the gaming experience on the 7900 XT is really good. I'm getting pretty decent. I'm getting pretty high frame rates on all of the games that I'm playing right now. All of the games that I've been having a problem with, that I had a problem with on the 3080, definitely run significantly better now. Everything feels a lot more stable, and yeah, it does suck to give up DLSS, but like I'm surprised I can play these games now without DLSS. You know what I mean? Like I get to play the games that I used to have DLSS to play. I get to play them now with native resolution. And if I have to turn on FSR, I've been testing FSR to look at it and see how it looks. It really doesn't look that bad. It really doesn't look as bad as everybody's saying it does. I mean, like, yeah, you get a little bit fuzzy in there, but I mean, if you've been playing on an Xbox or a PlayStation 5, like, whatever, dude, everything looks fuzzy. Everything looks fuzzy if you're trying to play on 4K. Well, I don't play on 4K. I play on 1440p, so everything looks sharp and crisp and beautiful. I mean, well, it doesn't look sharp and crisp, it looks, because I turned the sharpness down, so it just looks good. But yeah, man, if you don't need DLSS with a 7900 XT and you're coming from a 30 series card, like what's the problem? Like what's the real problem? Do you really need DLSS if you're getting your native resolution that's as good as the 3090 was giving you at, I mean, like, do you really need it? That's the thing. Do you really need DLSS? Do you really need like half of the stuff? I mean, like I get the anti-lag thing. I get with like something like Cyberpunk having to use DLSS and frame generation just to be able to play it because a 4090 still can't play it natively with everything turned on at over 15 frames a second. And I mean, the 7900 XT, turning all that on, even with the FSR, I get like 15 frames a second on that. So I mean, it's like, do you really? I mean, think about it, man. Cyberpunk is the one game that destroys every single card on the market with ray tracing. Maybe they should. Maybe they shouldn't. Or I don't know. I mean, that's just more fodder for you to have to buy another card, man. Like seriously, see it, Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk is the only game that destroys the performance on these cards, and you could just turn it off and have a good experience. So what are you really chasing? Everything else runs just fine without all of that. So everything else that I've tried with ray tracing on the 7900 XT runs just as fine as it did on the 3080 with DLSS, and I'm getting the same ray tracing performance that I was getting on that 3080 card, maybe even a little bit better. So I mean, technically I should be getting what 3090 Ti ray tracing experience on everything but Cyberpunk. So there's two things that like clearly you just don't need. You don't need the frame generation if you're getting a playable experience. Like I'm getting a playable experience on SpiderMan. Like, oh yeah, you could get it all the way up to 4K at 120. No, but you're not really getting those frames. You're getting interpolated frames. You're not really getting those frames. When I play Spider-Man now, if I play it with ray tracing, I'm at about 80 frames a second at the what is it, like 4K resolution, and I'll have to recheck that. Don't I was playing around with 4K and 1440p, so don't quote me on that. I'll have to look at that. But I feel like my frame rate was way higher than what I was getting with the 3080, especially at 1440p. Like it's way more stable, way more consistent. And then at 4K, like it runs just as good. So even with the ray tracing on, so I don't know exactly what the frame generation is supposed to do. Is it just supposed to make you feel like you're getting like 100 over 100 frames a second at 4K? Like it does. It feels good to be able to play that, but I think that I don't know, man. Like one of these days, I don't know if I'll have a 40. I don't know if I'll have a 40 series card anytime soon. But I can tell you that one of these days I will try it, and I will do more due diligence when looking through the settings for the Nvidia card next time I have one. But as it sits right now, like I think I'm pretty excited about what's going on with AMD. Like I'm pretty excited about this card. Like I'm having a good time with it. I'm finally to a weekend. I finally get to sit here and check things out and check out like VR and all this other stuff on it, and let you guys know, because the whole point of this is just to help those guys that really want to upgrade, but they don't want to upgrade to an Nvidia card right now. So they're looking at their other options. And I'm using myself as the guinea pig to path of, to move forward. And like I already knew that I was going to get a lot of pushback from the guys that like Nvidia. Like, guys, you don't need to push back. You don't need to push back. I'm not saying Nvidia is a bad card. Nvidia makes a killer product, but I think they lost. I just think they went off. I think they went astray, and I don't know if Nvidia cares anymore due to the fact that AI blew up, and now they don't really need to make graphic cards anymore. So this is the time to like ask a question like, hey man, is AMD gonna be the future, or are we going to be stuck on this hamster wheel with Nvidia, And like, I'm not saying Nvidia is bad. Like, I really enjoyed my Nvidia experience, but I just feel like it didn't last long enough for me to justify buying another Nvidia card over trying to check out AMD right now. Like, that's all I'm saying. Like, I'm just saying that, like, if it gets to a point where I have to be on the hamster wheel with Nvidia buying the newest and greatest card every 2 years when it comes out, so be it. So be it. I'm not opposed to that. But if I don't have to, I don't want to. And like 1440p plays a big role in this too, because I'm not really too worried about 4K anymore. Like I just don't care about 4K as much as I used to. Like I used to be like really big on 4K, but now I just don't care because 1440p delivers a great experience. So I feel like I get more bang for my buck at a 1440p than I do at 4K. And if I don't go with 4K, then I don't have to FOMO for like 4090 and fake frame rate. You know what I mean? Like it's all right, man. Like I'm not trying to call you guys out or anything, but No, that's why I don't say any names. But like I kind of feel like everybody's more concerned with protecting Nvidia right now, and I'm just trying to answer simple questions for people that are considering switching to AMD. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to answer simple questions and help you decide if this is even a path that you should even try to consider. You know what I mean? Like if you've been on Nvidia and you're used to that, like yeah, like I said, there's going to be some, like I said in the last video, there's definitely going to be some comfort zone issues, like seriously, and it's they're starting to go away a lot quicker, and I'm starting to be like, oh wow, this is a pretty good experience. And yes, it is a generational gap. It is like this is a new generation of AMD cards, and it's replacing the old generation. So all right, man, I hope you guys find this entertaining as much as I do. So we'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching. If you hit that like and subscribe, I would greatly appreciate that.